Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some custom cables and wires for your model kits and minis. Now to do this we'll just be using some old scrap wire and feed pieces. Along to help with those we're also going to use some toe latches and eye hooks that came with other model kits. So to start out with, of course, we're going to need to scrape off all of the sheathing off of the cables. Now, this is pretty easy to do with just a hobby knife, scraping off one side, getting it all scraped off, and then just pulling it off. It really isn't too difficult. You just got to make sure you get all of the cables out of the sheathing and get it nice and pulled out, and make sure that sheathing is cut right. So of course just doing that, and you can do this on pretty long lengths of wire without much mess because you can just slice it at once, and you may need to come back and slice up and fix up a few little areas, but it works pretty well, and you can see here that it all comes out pretty good, and we have the nice wire all ready to be used. So now that we have our wire all nice and unsheathed and ready to go, we're just going to be attaching it to the end of a drill. I like to use a drill because it gives you a lot of nice control and variability in the speed that you do the wires, and because of the nice chuck at the end of this normal drill, we can just easily tie it up. So first of all, we'll of course start out with just tying up the end a little bit. This doesn't need to be tied up nice, they just need to hold together. We'll be cutting off the ends of this wire anyway. So then we're going to go in and just clamp the end of the wire into the drill, just making it tight, making sure it's all good. Then with the other end, we're just going to pull it all out, and we will be holding onto the end of it with some pliers just to make sure everything is all nice and stayed up. Now for this one, because I'm only using one length of wire and just wrapping it over itself, we'll just be wrapping it around on itself and holding the end tight, and then just going with the drill. And depending on the gauge of wire you're using, how thick it is, you need to either go a lot slower or you can go a little bit quicker here, as you can see with this thicker gauge of wire. But you can still, if you're not gentle enough, snap the wire as you saw there. But even with that, this wire was wrapped enough that we can still use it. So we're going to go and do this again to make a even thicker braid of wire. So just folding the wire over and putting it back in the chuck. Then taking the end of the piece and wrapping it all again. And this really is just how this method works. It's really simple and honestly not too hard to do as long as you just have a drill. You could even do it by hand. It'll just take you quite a while just by attaching one piece to the table or taping it down somewhere and wrapping it by hand. But with a drill, it makes this process really quick and really easy. So then once we have all of our wire nicely wrapped up and ready to go, we can just cut off the ends and we will have our first cable here. This one is of course the easiest one, using a thicker copper cable, and it makes for some nice thicker cabling or wires to put on your model kits. So you can see this is a very nice one. All you need to do is throw some paint onto the wire and you'll be good. So now going on to that smaller gauge of wire that we unwrapped in the first bit, and for this one, because I have so much of this wire, I'll be using multiple strands of it. Now this will work really nice, and it'll make a very nice and even wrapping to the wire, making sure it goes all together, and it really will look like a cable or something at the beginning. So of course, once again, just like with the thicker wire, wrapping them up and just kind of making sure that they all stay together. These wires are pretty thin, so it helped to just kind of use some pliers, twist them all up, and then put them all in the chuck together, wrapping them in and making sure they get nice and tight. And now for this thinner gauge of wire, you really want to make sure to be gentle with it. And you can see just holding on with the other side, since it's not a loop or something easy to hold on to, just tying it up a bit and then holding on to the end of it with some pliers. That will really just help make sure that it doesn't slip out or go wrong. And for this one, when you're going with these thinner gauges of wires, you really want to make sure they're all straight, and of course you want to go slow with it. You can see here it was a really slow process, but it came out to some very nice cables that look really good on a finished model kit. So we're just going to take our time going slow, and even though I took my time on this one, a few of them did snap a little bit, but that's good enough. we have enough wire to work with, so just cut it off at the end of where the nice wrapping was, and we'll be good. So these wires really look nice as to replace any tow cables or any of the pre-molded plastic ones that come with a lot of kits these days that really just don't look very good. So you can see here, this cable looks really nice. It's got that nice rounded texture. And so now we'll also be adding on the little tow hooks and eyelets that came with these kits. Now most kits that come with pre-molded plastic tow cables will come with a hook or eyelet on the end of them. So for that, I just cut the ends off and of course drill a hole, and then just using some super glue, gluing them in place. And this really just adds to how nice the pieces look. They look like real tow cables and just fit really nicely on models, as well as you can shape and bend them to really kind of go in wherever you want or do whatever you want. So you can see here, I'm just cutting them down to length, putting them in place, seeing where I want them, and making sure they look all good. And then once they've been cut to length, we're of course going to glue on the other side, making sure to just get enough super glue in that little hole that we drilled earlier in them and putting them on. And of course, I say this makes a really nice little addition to a kit, and with them being actual cables and fully bendable, you really can do a lot. So here I'm just going to throw a little bit of gray paint on them, just kind of throwing it on. The tank I'm putting these on will be pretty weathered, so don't really need to worry about them looking perfectly clean. If they were going to be going on a cleaner tank or something nicer, you could of course spend a bit more time. Now as well, I like to coil some of these wires so you can have wire coils, and just kind of throwing it all together over a jar or something and coiling them up, and then you can just tie them together with some other wire or something and glue them together or something, and they'll look good and you'll have some nice wire coils. Like you can see here, I did on an LAV project that you can check out on my channel here, and they look really good. There's also cables like this. This one may have actually come with the kit, I can't remember, but it's a very nice cable and it's an actual metal cable, and they look really good on kits. So you can see these cables come out really nice. They are simple and add a ton of detail to your kits and models. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and wait for any more content that I have coming, because I've got a lot more on the way. So thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.